Hi, I'm going to talk about attitude and energy. I have no doubt that if at some point in your life you've taken up running or other form of physical activity, you will have noticed that you've developed some positive attitudinal shifts, not just chemically induced by the exercise, but also through the social, environmental, relationship, and racing experiences that have transpired. I have been fortunate enough to have been involved in the sport of running for well over 50 years. And know that it has afforded me opportunities for personal experience, for insights, growth, and ultimately some wisdom that can be put to very good use if I choose to focus on what works and let go of what actually doesn't. Whether through watching all great sportsmen or women or analyzing my own successes and failures, it is obvious, with the exception of fast twitch activities, that relaxation is a big part of the key of being successful. That is, letting one's natural ability and body's wisdom be in a flow state. Another truism is that attitude is everything. It will determine how you do and what you take from any experience, as well as what you give to any experience or performance. Having an attitude of gratitude allows for one to be in a natural flow state and to both give and receive positive energy in the forms of fun, joy, and satisfaction. When young or first getting into any sport, we are usually initially involved for fun, fitness, and for friendships. After time, we may choose to move into a more competitive mode or reach a certain level of comfort or competence, whether by comparing ourselves to others or hopefully by comparing with our former selves or what we had previously perceived as our limitations. Performance is usually presented as the pooling of three things. That is, number one, ability, the potentialities that are developed and refined by knowledge and experience. Number two, by focus, taking notice of just one thing by narrowing one's attention to other input, including the modulation of energy levels, that is, being able to calm down or energize oneself at will, which is often impaired by disturbances such as anxiety and depression. Number three, motivation. The reason one does something, which incorporates perspective, the ability to generate short and long-term goals, and the flexibility to move from one to another. I believe that to achieve absolutely the best possible personal performance, we need also to include one's attitude, mindset, and energy state. Firstly, let it be understood that winning is independent of the outcome. It is about achieving the best result in less than ideal circumstances, or doing the best one can under the given circumstances at that particular time. It is by focusing on the process rather than on the outcome that you will achieve the best possible result on the execution, such as when driving a car, being in a spontaneous flow state. To achieve the personal best of ourselves, we must be prepared in the physical and nutritional realms, as well as having worked on the necessary technical and tactical issues. But many coaches would agree that the most important ingredient is in the mental arena. Chiropractors and other health practitioners often refer to the triad of health, meaning the structural, chemical, emotional, mental elements of our makeup. If any one of these is out of balance, then the other two areas get negatively impacted. Hans Selye, an authority on the issue of stress, gave the name eustress to identify and differentiate that which is a healthy level of stress, that is a motivating and rewarding level, as opposed to unhealthy stress. Unhealthy stress can cause panic, anxiety, hyperventilation, uptightness, anger, and performance anxiety. The first three items of the suicide status form are number one, psychic pain, which is an unbearable level of psychological suffering. Number two, pressures, stressors that impinge upon one's psychological world. And number three, perturbation, which is an intense state of emotional upset and includes agitation, perceptual constriction, impulsiveness, and a penchant for action. The underlying feelings that stress provides are fear, pain, and fear of more pain. Suffering does indeed suck. One item that gets little attention is the importance of sleep. Deprivation of it often lends itself to some form of mood disorder. Therefore, some discipline is needed, and it should be viewed as training, a time when the batteries get recharged. If we seek a balance of performance and personal excellence, then we firstly need to ask ourselves, whose needs are being satisfied by the athlete's performance. We need to be heading in a direction of our personal choice and desire, and not that of another by trying to provide some vicarious satisfaction for them, or even to attain approval from them. At some level, you may note that you have been your own worst enemy and that you find yourself constantly self-sabotaging when the palace of possibilities stand before you. If we have that awareness, then it behooves us to stop living with the problem and start living with the answer, to recover or to continue to repeat the sabotaging cycle. By virtue of our past experiences, our energy levels, and our attitude, we can find ourselves feeling spirited, motivated, enthused, passionate, or dispirited and lacking the wherewithal to perform anywhere close to our true potential. It is important for us to figure out by whom or by what we are inspired or motivated. Nowadays, many runners, for instance, are motivated to run for the pursuit of fitness, camaraderie, challenge, or charity. Whereas prior to the running boom, performance was the main motivator. By virtue of the everyman involvement in the sport, there are many who provide the inspiration that drives others to participate. I've always found that my performances were stronger when, without their awareness, I actually dedicated a race to somebody of significance to me. The other times that I noted I always put in a full effort was in relays. By dedicating the race to a person or a cause, inspiration, motivation, I believe that we draw upon the inner passion, the enthusiasm, and the spirit that also manifests in those team road relay events. Having and harnessing the necessary mental components used to equate to being mature in an age-related sense, but it doesn't need to be any longer. It is about application of the knowledge. It is about letting go of what doesn't work and focusing on what does. We are the experts on ourselves, and there is enough external expertise in all forms, including personal coaches and written material, such that we do not need to keep reinventing the wheel. There will be some up-to-date information and training methods that are worthy of our attention, i.e. the POSE method, for instance, but we do not need years and years of trial and error to figure out a good personal goal-oriented training program. We need to be willing to risk and work at change if we have stuck to a routine that has never paid the dividends we have sought, as performance and experience alone do not lead to confidence. Confidence and belief are the biggest determinants of excellence, and we have to make a personal commitment to excellence in order to reach the highest levels. The commitment is purposeful and is planned, and is based around fidelity to oneself. Although it would appear to be the ideal setup, one should not rely totally upon outside support for providing opportunity, encouragement, and motivation, as it is the person who has the internal self-driven fortitude, combined with confidence, belief, experience, and wisdom, who focuses on what works and lets it flow, while embracing and enjoying the actual process. Our biggest fear is usually the fear of failure. The most used acronym for failure is found another important lesson upon reviewing experience. One way to reframe that same thing is to review a perceived failure as being feedback or fuel for future reference. Regardless of success or perceived failure, there is always a result, and it is what you do with that result that really counts. Are there any lessons from it that you can take away with you? If you start putting yourself down with negative internal dialogue, or what they call roof brain clutter, then you have created and are already competing against one extra opponent, yourself. We therefore need to modify our self-talk. We can focus by using a written personal script list, which we can verbalize internally and can share with others, such as coaches or supporters, to even use during the course of an event. These scripts would be positive personal commands and or positive technical or mood phrases that can be used to counter fatigue. They could be a reminder of a dedication, a charity, or simply to push, pull, etc. They can be used to help it counteract pain and fatigue. It does not mean that we need them to analyze every little thing, as we can get paralysis by analysis. But gaining confidence minimizes the worries, and remember that worrying is praying for what you don't want. After some racing experience, and possibly with the help of a coach, we should be able to identify our own key to consistency. The only difference regarding pre-competition and competition conditions is having versus not having control. the predictable versus the unpredictable. We can have routines and rituals in our training phases, but given all the possibilities that a race or event can challenge us with, we need to be very flexible in order to achieve flow and high performance. Emotion can be thought of as and felt as either negative or positive, but it's how one chooses to use it that determines whether or not it will be productive and work for you or be destructive and self-sabotaging. Emotion is energy in motion, and energy flows where attention goes. Attention and intensity equals focused emotion. Over-arousal can be an issue, the antidote for which is relaxation. Now, Lance Armstrong, the 7-time Tour de France winner, or not, uses the acronym CANCER to represent those things that help him survive the disease and fully grow as an athlete and humane being. The acronym stands for courage, attitude, never give up, curability, enlightenment, and remembrance. And that remembrance was of fellow patients. Millions of his yellow wristbands sold as a result of people being inspired by the man and his cause. As a result, Live Strong has become a motivational personal script or self-mantra for many people. Dr. Martin Collis of Vancouver and Victoria, British Columbia, coined the acronym MELLOW to encompass those areas which I believe allow for a balanced triad of health. They are mind, exercise, laughter, love, optimal nutrition, and wonder. These are indeed ingredients for a spirited existence. Michael Phelps, a great Olympic swimmer, used the acronym WIN, W-I-N, for what's important now. Well, if you've read Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now, you know. The one thing we know for sure is that none of us will get out of this existence alive, so we might as well make our life something that we truly want it to be. We also know that what the mind dwells on, the body reveals, and therefore our primary goals should incorporate becoming a friend to the self and not at times being our own worst enemy and continually beating ourselves up. We will inhabit our body 24 hours a day for the rest of our lives. So we might as well make peace with the vehicle and engine we drive in and provide it with best possible fuel. There are some important questions that we can ask ourselves in order to assist in determining and developing our other life and athletic goals. Some of those are, how do you want to be and how would you know when you are there? What dreams did you have as a child that you have now given up on? Who do you wish you could be like? What would you like to do that you haven't been able to do yet? What would you do, attempt, be if your success was guaranteed? What legacy of self would you like to leave behind? How good can you stand it? Now, I'm not a religious person, but I do subscribe to the Huna philosophy, which basically has 7 tenets. 1 is the world is what you think it is. 2 is there are no limits. 3 is energy flows where attention goes. 4 is now is the moment of power. 5 is to love is to be happy with. Love is the only ethic needed in Huna. 6 is all power comes from within. And 7 is effectiveness is a measure of truth. As Frank Outlaw once wrote, thoughts become words. Words become actions. Actions become habits. Habits become character. Character becomes your destiny. Being the world's leading experts on ourselves, I suggest that we need to utilize our own inner coach wisdom by calling upon what I call the independent, all-knowing expert observer self. By stepping outside of ourselves, we can avoid athletic and other forms of self-sabotage by asking questions such as, what advice would I give right now if I really cared for this person and I were watching him or her, meaning oneself, training or racing, or if I were coaching this sports person in this particular predicament? Now, when we hear our own loving advice, then we need to heed it by applying it to ourselves, even when a part of us doesn't believe that we may deserve it. When at some future point you reflect on this time in your sporting life, this particular stage, ask yourself, how do you want to think of your performance and attitude or your own part in the team's performance? Do you want it to be one of enjoyment and satisfaction or disappointment and frustration? Define the attitude you wish to take into it with you and observe the difference it brings to your overall experience. The manner in which you train or practice will define your performance. For high performance, one should incorporate deliberate practice, which is designed to take you out of the comfort zone, and pressure practice, which is tactical. One should not avoid focus on any weaknesses. In fact, the purpose of a drill is to expose those weaknesses. We are forever involved in self-dialogue, and if we find ourselves in a state of inner turmoil, some healthy reframes that we can use include, I am cordially invited to change my mind. I can choose peace instead of this. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. If you have not yet achieved a goal and find yourself internally using put downs, it is more productive to use a reframe such as, to this point, I haven't hit the stride that I want to. Sports psychologists now play a big part in elite athletes training arsenals and regiments. Mental rehearsal is of vital importance to all goal-oriented athletes, regardless of comparative performance levels. If our visualization is of watching or observing a third party, then it is passive and external, i.e. modeling. However, if it is the first person, i.e. seeing the self and feeling the self doing it, then it is internal, active, and kinesthetic, which actually creates a desired stimulation. It is therefore possible to use mental rehearsal as one's basic warm-up, and it redefines dry land training. One of the main reasons for many doctors' visits is due to hypoadrenalism, though it will often be given other names such as fatigue or even depression. Nutrition is a big factor for all, but especially so if you're engaged in athletic activity. It is easy for our system to become depleted of essential nutrients, minerals, vitamins, amino acids, etc., and water and electrolytes such as potassium and sodium are vital. Dehydration is a major issue that was only really appreciated as such with the running boom of the 70s, when aid stations became more readily available in road races. With the body being made up of around 70% water, and through Dr. Masaru Emoto's fabulous book, Messages from Water, which beautifully illustrated the impact of thoughts and images on water, and you might want to see the film What the Bleep Do We Know, we are only now becoming fully cognizant of the statement that what the mind dwells on, the body reveals. Dr. William Tiller, a Stanford professor who is working on the Genome Project, has spoken about the major role of loving intentionality in healing, and his work and opinions are also featured in the same film. Dr. Wayne Dwyer has been the host of a popular TV program called The Power of Intentionality. Sadly, he's no longer with us. These issues have been somewhat minimized in the past, but clearly they have a major impact in our overall athletic, fitness, and wellness goals and successes. Most people carry with them some form of miasm or predisposition to a certain ailment, such as the chickenpox virus, which, if it gets expressed, can manifest as a painful case of shingles. However, we do have the ability to create much healthier forms of cellular memory by means of visualization, training, and racing experience that we can specifically gear towards expression at the peak time in order to experience and be rewarded with the desired athletic satisfaction and goal. Visualization is now an accepted and validated tool of sports psychologists. Remember that the body does not know the difference between what is real and what is imagined, and the whole system will start to respond well as it gains a comfort level knowing that it has been in the imagined scenario many times before. As we continue to install and reinforce our desired memory cell images and feelings, then the whole person begins to experience and enjoy a flow state, whether one is performing or in competition. Performance anxiety is one of the main obstacles to those white light moments, and that is why I incorporate energy techniques such as tapas acupressure technique and emotional freedom technique for quicker and more complete installation of the goal-oriented visualization and cellular memory. Success will be more likely to come if one has an expectation of success. Therefore, by changing one's goals to that of performance process rather than only on the outcome, the event will be a fully present one with constant access to one's own personal inner coach. And the body, mind, spirit will have shifted from an anticipatory anxiety-based one to an excitement-based experience. It has been said that you cannot have a strong emotion while you are physically relaxed. Therefore, if you find yourself having strong emotions that stiffen the body and stifle the possibilities, you might need to consciously remind yourself of what and choose to do the simple, what I call wet noodle exercise, which is where you just allow yourself to relax as much as possible. in a given situation, and give an internal command for every part of you to just relax, release, and totally flop, just like a wet noodle. Consider yourself an actor and you've been given the role of a wet noodle. The progressive muscle relaxation combats any pressure or perturbation. Notice whether or not you have the ability to observe thoughts in your head without any reaction to them, sympathetic nervous system or otherwise. If you are able to, then you are in what they call a tapper state, which allows for total psych and physical relaxation. The simple Serenity Prayer contains a magnificently powerful message that has been a guide for millions. It simply states, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Dr. David Hawkins, author of Power versus Force, he stated that all stress is internally generated by one's attitudes. Gerald Pauls, a former Ironman competitor out of Colorado, sent me a card once that stated, exercise is a chain that links us to the chariot of well-being. Well-being means happiness, but happiness is also an attitude. And the best attitude is one of gratitude. Cicero said gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. How lucky we are to be able to choose to run for fun or do other sports for fun, fitness, adventure, competition, or to complement and honor our own existence. Our attitude of gratitude needs to extend to those who help make it possible, whether they be our loved ones, race directors, volunteers, or those who assist in our healthy overall maintenance. Putting out positive words, thoughts, and vibrations, and being willing to receive them as well, allows for the quantum possibilities to be personally and globally impactful. We have to recognize that life is indeed a struggle at times, and that winning or losing are in the hands of the gods, and therefore we must learn to celebrate the struggle. Albert Schweitzer stated that the greatest discovery of any generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. As a final note of coincidence, providence, or serendipity, you might find it interesting to note that when using the word attitude and the number that corresponds with the letters of the alphabet, that is A equals 1, T equals 20, I equals 9, D equals 4, U equals 21, etc., E equals 5, you get a grand total of 100. So the attitude you choose to carry with you directly determines your experience of everything. Turn attitude into action. Your attitude determines whether you're on the way or in the way. If adversity can make your life better, is it really adversity? A healthy attitude is contagious, but don't wait to catch it from others. Please be a carrier. Thank you.